Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Hold on a minute. I'm going to take a drink of water. I forgot to drink water before I started. Good to see everyone. I'm missing my better half today. Lyn is at the passport office today getting his passport. He called me a few days ago and he said, I was invited to go on a trip with my kids to Mexico, discovered my passport had expired. And he said the only appointment they could give me is September 5th. So I said, no worries. I'm here. Don't worry about it. I'll do the meeting without you, as sad as it is to do it without you. So I'm excited though, because I'm seeing questions coming in. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dax. Good to see you. So glad that you're here. Hi, Catherine. Wonderful to see you too, Catherine. Hi, Deb. Good to see you, Deb. Oh, and Vicky, where's Vicky's question? Oh, I don't see it. Oh, let's see. Answered 7. Oh, okay. Trixie's been answering questions. Okay. Oh, great. Okay, good deal. All right. Everybody's here. Everybody got their questions answered. Very good. So now we can get started. Let's take a look at some of these questions. So I'm glad everybody's here. You're in the right place, and we're going to do this Q&A. So let me know what your questions are. Trixie's already been doing a great job. Good to see you too, Tamitha. Hi, Siwa, more feathers. Good to see you. Hi, Ashley. Hi, it's good to see you, Ashley. I'm so glad to see your name on here. And there's Lori Pershaw. Hi, Lori. And let's see. So I'm just going through the greetings to get to the questions. Hi, Karen. Good to see you too. Hi, Sophie from Toronto. Hi, Catherine Ransom. Good to see you. Pamela Ernest, nice to see you too. Oh, Dax, you're sweet. Thanks so much. Hi, Michael. Nice to meet you. Hi, Trisha. Good to see you too. Hey, Erin, I'm doing great. Thanks. We've had back-to-back family. So at the beginning of the year, I sent a thing out. We have 9 kids, and I sent a thing out saying, hey, if you guys want to come visit, tell me now when in this coming year of 2023 you want to be here. And so, I see the UPS guy coming. Hold on a second, guys. Give me 1 minute. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Guys, sorry. This company has tried to deliver the same furniture several times. All right, so let's see. Chicago, Carla. Hi, Carla. Good to see you. Good to see you from Chicago. Okay, let's see. Hello to everybody. Oh, good. I'm glad that you're almost. Hey, Donna, good to see you. I'm glad you're out of the wildfire danger, almost out of it. That's good. And whoever sent me a question by email, I don't have time to get into the email now. So if you want to retype it in here, in the questions and answers, I'd love to answer it. And just go ahead. Okay. Hi, Nicola. And hi, Samantha. Good to see you. Okay. Matthew O'Brien. Hi, Matt. Good to see you. 2 questions related to Lyn's recent interview with Dr. Mishlev. During that interview, he mentioned that Ingo had, number 1, gotten rid of phase 5, and 2, identified up to phase 18, but wouldn't share the details. Could you expand upon those 2 topics for us? Well, I can from my limited knowledge, Matt, because Lyn and I have talked about these things, of course, many times in the nearly 30 years that we've known each other. He said that Ingo eventually got rid of phase 5. I think all the phases of the CRV process, phase 5 is the most nebulous. And I think it's nebulous because Ingo was kind of playing with it a lot, trying to come up with something. And what's evolved from that, and Ingo was hoping that things would evolve with CRV. He talked to his family about that. It's in his writings and things that have now been opened since his passing. In the evolvement of CRV as we know it, phase 5 has become a great tool, as you know, Matt, because you're one of my students, has become a great tool for breaking out stray cats and AOLs, the erroneous thoughts and the stray thoughts that are just floating around in our heads that cause us to build castles and make up stories. And so we have taken the concepts that we've understood, and when I say we, I mean Lyn, Paul Smith, different people, from what they gathered about what Ingo taught regarding phase 5. And then we've come up with these tools. Whether or not they're truly not from Ingo. I mean, some of the things might be from Ingo, and the concepts originated with Ingo, but they're definitely new tools that have been created since Ingo created CRV. And really, Ingo only worked for the US military for such a brief time, and his time in creating a written structure to help separate conscious thoughts from subconscious is such a great thing, but it was pretty much in beta. I think it was in beta for the very first few years. So regarding getting up to phase 18, I've never heard that from anyone but Lyn. I know that Lyn and Ingo talked about CRV somewhat. He said that a lot of times, because Ingo would call Lyn's house when I was there frequently. And so Lyn, I know that Lyn and Ingo had a really fun friendship. And Ingo didn't frequently like to talk about CRV with people. He got kind of tired of talking about it after a while. But when he and Lyn did talk about it, and my understanding is that he invited Lyn to come to New York and just work with him for a while with CRV. But Lyn, I don't think, had the opportunity to do that time-wise. So he kept trying to formulate new phases that would cause people to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And my understanding of phase 8, because we have all the first 7 phases, but my understanding of phase 8 is that it was an alphanumerics thing where you would literally use the body to try to feel out the letters. For example, if you had a secret letter or a secret document in a drawer and I was trying to read it and literally feeling out each letter or each number, that's probably a very sketchy description of what phase 8 is. So take that with a grain of salt, everyone. But that was my understanding what phase 8 was. And then according to Lyn, Ingo told him he was continuing to develop more phases, but that he didn't feel the human race was ready for them yet. So I don't know anything other than that's hearsay from Lyn. I wish Lyn were here and he could answer, but that's my answer for now, the best I can do. And Victor asked, oops, let's see. Okay, here we go. Victor said, is there a scoring video for us to use to build a database of results? No, we have an open source database on our website that anyone can use, Victor. If you're one, all my students can certainly use it. They do use it. We have thousands of entries into our database. And so as far as a video on how to score, I don't think we've ever made a video on how to score, but that's a really good idea. Trixie, we should make a note that we should create a scoring video and a scoring blog to talk about how to score. That would be great. I'll move on to the next one. Ryan says, oh boy, do I have questions. First, the CRV steps seem to be missing a step 0. How do I get my analytical mind to STFU? This is my major issue right now. That's a great question, Ryan. And in the beginning, your mind won't shut up. And there's a process happening. It's kind of like, hey, I'm getting ready to have a baby. How can I get my baby to walk and talk from day 1? There's no way to do that because there is a process that must take place in that baby's development. The baby has to go through certain things, learn to lift its head, learn to roll over, learn to start crawling, etc. So there's no method for you to get that baby to come out of the womb walking and talking. However, so you have to think of your brain like that baby. Your brain has a process that it's going to go through. And the beginning of that process is where the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, they want to battle it out like sibling rivalry. The conscious mind, which is kind of felt like it's the person in charge of all that is you, your whole life as an adult, suddenly might feel threatened that now through the CRE process, we're actually opening a door and allowing the subconscious to have a bit of say so in this whole thing. And that can feel threatening to the subconscious mind. And so for that reason, this is a process that takes place. And in the beginning, the whole way that this is going in the beginning is that it is setting up so that your subconscious can have a voice. And in order to do that, there's this beginning battle of the president of your company, as we call the conscious mind. The president becomes in charge, wants to do it all, wants to constantly be interfering. And that's the part of you that you wish it would shut the blank up, right? That's the part that, God, this just drives me crazy. And all viewers, including me, have gone through that. And instead, eventually, as you mature as a remote viewer, I don't mean as you mature as a person, but as you mature as a remote viewer and you continue to practice, what eventually happens is you become very engaged in the process and all the things that you're learning about yourself and learning about the target and all these things. And the whole issue of right or wrong kind of fades into the background. Like, oh, should I write this down? What if it's wrong? Should I say that? Maybe I better not say that. All that editing that the conscious mind is doing, which frequently comes through in emails when I get an email from a brand new student who'll say, well, I started my session, but the first 5 pages were garbage, so I restarted it. Well, your conscious mind tells you it's garbage, but it has no psychic ability. So it doesn't know what's really right or wrong. And you won't know that till you see your feedback. So anytime you feel like, oh, I know this is garbage, that's probably incorrect. And a lot of times when I get people to share with me the 5 pages they threw away, those 5 pages are often the most accurate. So don't listen to that voice in your head. And so when your conscious mind, the analytical mind, is really just the whole time, we have a few tips that we teach on kind of dealing with stray cats, which are the nouns that pop in, the analytic overlay that pops in. And when these things happen, you learn a few tricks of the trade as you go along, but just know that it's not going to stop until you've gone through the full process and reached all the different milestones, just like the baby has to do. Oh, welcome, Lightfoot. I'm glad you're here with us. Hi, Vicki. Vicki said, can we ask questions about structure, or is that in CRV tonight? Vicki, come tonight. You're going to be coming to that. And that's when you want to ask all the structure questions, because I can't really, I've got a lot of people attending these Q&As that have never taken the class. So this is more set for the general public of people who are interested in remote viewing. Some of them are my students, some of them are Lyn students, but they have kind of questions that they've always wanted to ask, never had the chance. And that's what we're doing here. And you're going to be joining me tonight, so you'll be able to ask those structured questions. Then we have Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer Kingston, welcome. And Lucas. Hi, Lucas, good to see you. Then we have Erin. Hi, Erin from Canada. Hi, Teresa. I'm so glad you're here. She's new here. Thank you, everyone who saw the interview with Jeffrey Mishlove. That was my 6th appearance on Jeffrey Mishlove's show. Yes, Nicola, did you have a question on intuition? She also, folks, know that this month on the 26th at noon, I am teaching a little 1-hour class on how do I trust my intuition. And it's going to be a 1-hour class. And you'll be, if you're on my mailing list, you'll definitely get an email. If you're not on my mailing list, you can actually write to support@intuitivespecialist.com. Actually, I think the best way to join the mailing list is go to the website, intuitivespecialist.com. And there it'll have a pop-up where you can take the free class. You can sign up for the free class and that puts you on the mailing list, or you can, there's another free written class called Secrets of the Ancients that you can sign up for, and you then get on my mailing list. And I think there's even a little box that says just sign up for the newsletter, and you can do that. I don't really send out a newsletter very often, but I do send out emails. So so that's a great thing. So Nicola, yeah, please be sure you can ask questions, and you can also attend that class that's coming up on the 26th. If you're in Club PRV, the class is free for you. If you're not in Club PRV, the class only costs $11.11. We made it $11.11 just for fun. So hi, Charlie in England. Good to see you. Hi, Greg. Hi, Martin Lombardini. Yes, we're having so many kids visiting, and my daughter just left right before she came. My son and his family were here. And then next is my sister, who's arriving in a few days. Janine, hi, Janine. Oh, Janine is here. I'm so happy to see you. She says, do you know if any of the RV research ever determined whether or not it was easier to remote view outside of Earth's atmosphere? Thanks. You know, Janine, James Spottiswoode did the famous experiment where he talked about, where he was trying to see if it made a difference where you were on the planet and whether you were facing out into outer space or whether you were facing into the center of the galaxy. And that was the, you know, LST. LST, suddenly my brain is just fritzing out. Local sidereal time. LST. Local sidereal time was a fascinating study. And according to James Spottiswoode's results, he found, as I recall, that if you happen to be facing into the galaxy, your senses were greatly heightened and the psychic phenomena was much more pronounced versus facing out of the galaxy. Now, I really should look that up because it's been so long since I've looked at that study. I don't remember if it was, I think it was facing in was more psychic and facing out to outer space was less, if I recall, but that could be wrong. And so he came up with this whole thing about local sidereal time. And for a while in the military, they then would use local sidereal time. They would always mark whatever time it was with local sidereal time. And for those of you who are not familiar with LST, it is where you are longitude and latitude wise, and wherever you are at any given time and on a regular 24-hour clock, where does that put you with regards to the center of the galaxy versus out into outer space? So that's what local sidereal time measures, and that you can actually go online or even on apps. There's even apps in your phone from the App Store that are local sidereal clocks, and you enter your longitude and latitude of where you happen to be at the moment. And believe it or not, it can make a difference whether I'm, for example, right now broadcasting to you from my office or whether I walk across the street. That changes the longitude and latitude a little bit. And that can also really have an effect on local sidereal time. So you want to put your exact location in. And then once you do that, you can see what the local sidereal time is. Now, when I was introduced to James Spottiswood's study back in 1996, I decided right then and there that I was going to ignore it. And the reason I decided to ignore it was because I did not want to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. I thought, if I'm going to be useful as a remote viewer and someone calls me and we have a missing child, the police are calling because they want help with us locating a missing child, I don't want to go, oh, sorry, I may not be able to help you right now because with local sidereal time, I'm facing out to the universe, and I won't do very well right now. I want to be able to be Johnny on the spot and to be really resilient and versatile and be able to get information when it's needed, rather than being bound by some thought that, oh, I wouldn't be psychic if I did it right now. So instead of creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, I've always ignored local sidereal time. However, since then, there have been studies trying to replicate James Spottiswood's results, and they could not replicate them. And so now the whole study has been discounted as being worthless. So I hope that answered. I hope that answered your question, Janine. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, Lori. Lori said, "Will there be a new intermediate live class in a few months?" Probably yes, Lori. We're looking at that, and so for you, that's something to be thinking about. However, you're not quite ready for intermediate yet. We discussed that, and we wanted you to know that we are going to be giving you access, though, to the 6-week intermediate course, so that when you are ready, you don't have to wait for the 3-day course. You can jump right in and start it then. Next, we have Dax. Hi, Dax. How can we know that CRV is a spiritually enlightening practice? Can you share an experience? That's a good question. I think that each viewer really needs to have their own experience with CRV. I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, Dax, but there's a saying that says, God has no grandchildren. And the reason we say that is because I think each individual has to have their own spiritual experience that determines their future belief systems or the way they live their lives. And I found it's the same for CRV. For me, CRV has been a very profoundly spiritually enlightening experience. I started CRV coming from a missionary background that was really very strict doctrine, some of it quite strange, but supposedly biblical doctrine. And a lot of that doctrine was just very binary. There's God, there's the devil, there's heaven, there's hell, there's black, there's white. It's just very binary. And CRV has opened my consciousness to such a degree that it blew my God box wide open to now where I truly understand that there are multiple dimensions and multiple universes and things that I had never considered previously that have been enormously spiritually enlightening for me. Hi, Yvette. Good morning. Tamitha, yes, hoping the passport thing goes smoothly. I do too. Okay, so here's a question. I've been scouring the net to find out the answer. In many of your interviews, you mentioned the archaeologist you did job for, and I'm pretty sure you mentioned the name at one point. Yes, yes, his name, he actually gave me permission to give his name. His name is George Gillet, and he is out of Louisiana. And he has been going on the radio talking about this project. So, so I know that he is definitely open to discussing it. Hi, cariños desde Chile, Arnaldo, bienvenido. Oh, aloha from Kapahi, Kauai. Welcome. Aaron says, what would be your advice for someone who wants to get into the spiritual advisor and energy healing business? Aaron, I would first of all recommend that if you're really, really good at all this and you've been doing it for years and you really know your stuff, that you try some marketing education. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. And in 1999, I actually started my business. And then in 2015, I realized I'm either going to keep piddling in puddles or I'm going when there's an ocean to swim in, but I've got to find a way to let people know this exists. Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. So people out there who have no concept that our minds can do amazing things, and maybe have only been in a world where, if you can't touch it, see it, or feel it in front of you, it doesn't exist. These people, when they discover a regular step-by-step system that can allow them to expand beyond their minds, they're so blown away. And so I thought, well, how can I get this to those people who are not out there looking for it? Like, how can I reach people who are not just looking for it? And I realized the only way to do that is to learn something about marketing. And it was real scary. So you can contact me privately if you want, and I'll be happy to talk to you more about that. You can write to Lori@intuitivespecialists.com. So, okay. So then, Jen, hi, Jen. Jen's asking about what platform I'm releasing the audiobook on. And Jen, I appreciate you asking me that. We just sent a letter out to our entire list, which is now 88,000 people, and asked them, I said, I'm thinking of releasing my audiobook. It's all recorded and ready to release, but I wasn't sure what platform I wanted to put it on, whether I should put it exclusively on Audible or whether I should put it on a bunch of different platforms. And so I asked, how many of you actually listen to audiobooks? And so far, and the responses are pouring in. Right now, we're at about 650 responses. And out of those, 85% listen to audiobooks. And out of those, 70% use Audible. So we definitely are going to put it on Audible. I'm just not sure if we're going to do it exclusively on Audible or if we'll put it on multiple platforms yet. Saying hello to everybody who's saying hello. I'm going to skip past these so we can get to the questions. Hi, Dr. Karen. Hi, Chris from England. Okay, Vicki said, I sent a completed target over the weekend, but want it graded before I tackle the final. Vicki, first of all, let me let you know, I have thousands of students right now. So I do my best, but the help with grading things is limited. So I pretty much stick to the final exam, and you can, and we will be going over target A. We will be going over target A tomorrow at noon. So you can join us there and I'll go over it with you then. I don't do it separately and privately though. Also be aware that when you send in emails, if you write over the weekend or on a holiday, staff is off on those days. So you won't get a response right away. Just want you to know. I appreciate your emails, but just know that the staff we do have a schedule. We're open certain hours, we're shut down certain hours. So if you happen to write over the weekend, you won't get a response. And if you happen to write on a holiday, you usually won't get a response. Or if you write outside of business hours, you won't get a response until we reopen. So I just want people to know that. I've asked Trixie to put a little placard on the Facebook group and in our forums and things so that people know what our hours are. So be sure and write me about that privately. If you've already written, you will get a response, but it'll probably be during the meeting when that's the time to address those questions. Thanks, guys. Okay, Joan, I have a question about being left-handed. What adjustment needs to be made in moving from your ideogram, from your ID to the ideogram? I have hundreds and hundreds of left-handed students. It doesn't matter, Joan. You do what you used to. I mean, we have this process, right? That's going from here to here to here to here to here to here. And we kind of zigzagging down the page. Left-handed people do it just as easily as right-handed people, and we haven't noticed any difference. Thanks, Matt. And yes, Michael, this whole Q&A is all about remote viewing. And Allison asked, do we get a certificate from the course? Allison, you're asking about a course, but I don't know what course you're asking about. There's no certificate for the free course. We do give certificates for the 3-day workshops, for sure. And let's see. Then, okay, Catherine asked, I'm not sure if I trained my conscious subconscious, which is bleeding over to the CRV process, to only find 1 to 3 broad concepts, knowing I would go back later for another session. I've been ERVing at least once a day since February, and with ERV, the first time gives little and vague information. And then I go gather more information second and third time in. Or perhaps my conscious is not allowing me to go in deeper with multiple details until the CRV structure is mastered. I normally can follow 10 to 20 or more different things in an ERV. Is it bad to limit the information with the CRV until I know I've mastered the CRV process? If so, do you have a suggestion of what I should do? First of all, we don't recommend ever limiting anything when you're doing CRV. When you're in the CRV session, you want everything to just be free flow of consciousness. The minute you try to limit anything or edit or control it, that's your conscious mind stepping in and wanting to be boss. And we want your subconscious. You're going to want your subconscious to be in charge, not your conscious mind. But like I was explaining to the young man who asked, or the person who asked about, what was it that he asked about? Oh, about how do I get my mind to shut up? That there's no way to get your mind to shut up. Because it's part of that process. It's part of the baby evolving. So you've got to honor that process. And in the beginning, when I was first learning this, I was so mad at my conscious mind, like, oh, shut up. Why don't you be quiet, Mr. President? I want you to be quiet so I can be super psychic. And I learned over time that it's really important to honor the job of the conscious mind, which does a lot to protect us as a species. You know, if I hear a crunch behind me and my conscious mind says, that's a saber-toothed tiger about to eat you, that is part of my survival, right? That's my conscious mind letting me know what the danger is. So I want to honor the job of the conscious mind. And I like to think of the conscious mind's job as being the reporter, like in a journalist. You know, the conscious mind is the reporter, and the reporter is there documenting whatever is happening. And that's that whatever's happening is coming from the subconscious mind that's giving information. So I don't know if I got to pull the question back up so I remember what I was answering here. Okay, so I'm just mainly saying don't limit it. And Catherine, we can talk more about all these details and the specifics of your situation regarding ERV and CRV when you come to one of the club meetings. I'd love to discuss it with you more fully there. In these quick 1 hour Q&As, guys, I have to keep my answers kind of limited. So that's why I'm kind of not able to go into great detail. What's the best way to get started practicing CRV? Lucas, I would suggest, first of all, to take the free masterclass, which is completely free. Take that so you get to dip your toes in and you can see what CRV really is. That's the whole reason I created the free class, is so you get a chance to dip in your toes, really understand how it works. And then once you have taken that basic class, if you decided, for example, that you didn't want to take a fuller class, you know, like the 6-week practical remote viewing course or something, if you said, I just want to practice from here, because for a lot of people, if they don't have the funds to pay for a class or something, they just want to practice with the free things that they can find on the internet. My website has a ton of free things. Lynn Buchanan's website has a lot of free things. Trixie, can you put that in the Q&A, both of those websites, so everyone can get those? And so there's a lot of free stuff there. And there's also targets that you can start practicing with, Lucas. But if you want to practice actual CRV, you have to learn the structure. The free class teaches you the structure of phase 1 and a little bit of phase 2, but very little. So you would need to take a full course. I have a 6-week course. Lynn Buchanan has a 6-week course. So you can take either one of those, and that's a great way to start. When you take my 6-week course, which you can get a discount on, a $300 discount once you take the free course. At the end of the free course, there's an opportunity to take the 6-week course with $300 off. Then you can really learn the structure, and that's what's going. And there's all sorts of ways to practice, and you get several months free in our mentoring club, which is called Club PRV, in which you'll be able to attend meetings and get assignments. And I actually go over your assignment with you right on screen, face to face. So that's the best way. Then Vicky said, will we eventually be able to RV our past ancestors in their time to see what happened and decisions they made? Vicky, the answer is yes to that question. You can definitely do that. However, I like to put in a caveat, because I never want people to get caught up in self-delusion, right? We can deceive ourselves pretty easily when we really want something badly. So one of the things that I like to encourage people is build a track record on provable targets, like the assignments that you're going to get in Club PRV, or even just on the website, you know, where you're doing a target from a photograph that you can't see. and you start learning your strengths and weaknesses. Like you might find out that you're really good at colors, but you're really terrible at describing people, or you're really good at describing people, but you suck at describing water, or whatever you find out. When those things happen and you find out that you're good at one thing and terrible at another thing, that really helps you later on when you've really got a lot of practice under your belt and you want to remote view your ancestors. Then especially if you can set it up in such a way, and we talk about this is a little too long to get into here, but we talk about ways that you can set things up for yourself. And I'm planning to do another 1 hour class probably next month on how to remote view for yourself and how to set up targets for yourself and keep yourself blind to them, so that when you are viewing your ancestors, you don't know from the get-go, I'm going to remote view my ancestors, because it would be too easy for you just to close your eyes and go, I'm going to look at Granny Smith. Oh, there's Granny. And you make up a whole story in your mind that isn't true at all. It's all self-delusion. In order to avoid that, you set it up so you're blind to the target. And then when you do the session, and you have a track record and you know what you're really good at and what things are really countable that you should pay attention to, and what things you might want to take with a grain of salt because you're not so strong in that area, that's going to be when you'll be able to really be able to do this and enjoy it. And so I hope that was helpful. Yes, Magda said, I thought 1111 is a good number according to numerology. That's, yes. And actually, that was a suggestion from the guy who handles my website. He's like, why don't you make it 1111? Everybody loves 1111s. And so I've heard so many stories about 1111. So we decided to make it that. Yes. And then we have, oh, Ellen, let's talk, if you want to write me separately about that, anything that's particular just to you or to the club meetings or things, guys, this meeting here is for people who are not necessarily part of the club. And so Ellen, just send me that in an email if you don't mind. Derek said, is there any technique for keeping myself from remote viewing in my sleep and dragging others into it as well? I don't know, Derek. We might have to talk about that one a little more extensively. And I would probably need more detail than that to answer that one. Okay, yes, 1330. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie's saying, and I knew that it was 1330 in like local sidereal time. 1330 LST, most psychic, facing to the center. It's not facing to the center of the Earth, though. It's facing to the center of the galaxy, because the center of the Earth, you couldn't face the center of the galaxy and the center of the Earth at the same time. Anyway, that's my understanding. But again, I'm definitely not the expert on LST. And then Alan says, hi, Lori, when are you having your next project management class? And what does one expect after the class and beyond? Alan, thanks so much for asking. I don't have another project management class on the calendar, but we have now recorded the project management class and are in the process of editing it to offer on the website as a class that you can purchase and take as a 6-week video course. That doesn't mean I won't be teaching it live again. I probably will. I probably will teach it around once a year, but I don't have one on the calendar for the rest of this year. And as far as what you can expect afterwards, it depends on where you are in the other courses. Right now, we have several live operational projects going on from people who took the class and who are now involved in some operational remote viewing. Michael said, this might be a person question. Is this the same Lori Williams I spoke with in March, where you helped me on the Facebook Messenger with being a seer and had profound visions, but you may not remember? Sorry, Michael, I don't have any memory of that. It might not be me. Lori says, supposedly parallel or on the edge of the disc was supposed to be more psychic and facing the center less, which sounds counterintuitive, but makes sense if you picture a wave going out in concentric circles. Thanks, Lori. I don't know. I would need to look that up. Yeah, and Lori says, I agree with ignoring it. Makes sense. Yeah, and I haven't had a problem with ignoring it because, I mean, we all have reasons. I just want to say to everyone, there are reasons why sometimes we are super psychic and other days you feel like you couldn't remote view your way out of a paper bag. It can affect how tired you are, can be an effective thing. What you ate, like if you ate something that upset your stomach, you might not be that great of a remote viewer. I found that when I was younger, that tracking my menstrual cycles was important because I was actually ultra psychic when I was premenstrual, and less psychic when I was in my highest, best time of the month, where I was just feeling great. That I was actually less psychic then than I was when I was premenstrual, and somewhat homicidal sometimes. So they do say that women have a heightened sense of psychic ability when they're in that time of the month. So all that just to say that a lot of things can affect how psychic you are at any one given time. So I don't know about local sidereal time, because how do we know what else was affecting those viewers at that moment when they were viewing? Was it local sidereal time, or was it emotional stuff they had going on? Was it angry? They were angry about something, where they were super happy, there was romance, there was devastation. You don't know what's going on, especially these guys were soldiers, right? So yeah, who knows? Derek says, I also chose to ignore it at the time and rebuke any interference, only for the promise of truth and knowingly being tapped in. I chose to let my mind empty so it would remain clean. That's great, Derek. Arnaldo says, I understand that the hypothesis from Spottiswoode is 13 theory. Yes. Yes, that's correct. Okay, Nicola says, how can I know or sense when my family or I are in danger? Nicola, there's a lot of answers for that one as well, probably more than I could answer here, because there's no just stat answer to that. I'll give you an example. I was visiting my parents years ago. My parents have been long gone now, but I was visiting my parents years ago, and I was a remote viewer at that time too. And I went to go take a nap in the guest room. So I go into the guest room to take a nap, and I laid down on the bed. And just as I was drifting off to sleep, I had a vision of my parents' house in flames. And the vision was so strong that I was on my feet before I even knew it. I was on my feet running out of the bedroom. And as I ran past the hall bathroom, there was a towel hanging in front of a heater that had inadvertently gotten turned on. And that towel was bursting into flames as I ran by. And I grabbed it and stuck it in the sink and washed it. In another instance, and I think I told this in a blog not too long ago, but I was 17 and I was hitchhiking with two boys in Houston, Texas, and we got picked up by these two guys in a little tiny car, the kind where you have to push the seat forward to climb in the back seat. And the three of us were crammed in the back seat. And I suddenly heard a voice in my head saying, there's going to be an accident. So we're on the interstate in Houston, which is huge. And I hear this little voice say, there's going to be an accident. And I felt like scared instantly. And then the voice said, no one will be hurt. But as soon as the accident happens and the car comes to a stop, get out of the car and run. So we did. All that happened. The accident happened. We got out of the car and we ran. And then later, when we were trying to ascertain exactly what happened and comparing notes, we discovered that these guys had sawed-off shotguns under the seats, and we felt like they were planning to kill us. So I have been protected a lot of times through intuition. And I think I'm going to talk about this in the How Do I Trust My Intuition talk that we're going to have on September 26th, because I think that's really important. How do you trust your intuition and allow it to help you know or sense when you or your family are in danger? There's also a thing called mother's intuition, that where a mother, like her son is off at war and she suddenly senses when he's in danger or when he's been injured. And a lot of these things are spontaneous. However, there are things you can do with the CRV structure where you can actually look out into time to see when certain things might be dangerous, when you can plan for those things. Ultimately, though, I would love to just share with you, lately, a lot of people have been asking me questions like, should we remote view politicians once a month and see what they're doing and prepare for whatever, call the police when they're doing something shifty? And I said, remote viewers often kind of get a God complex where they want to play God. They want to be able to predict when something's about to happen so they can save tons of lives, or they want to, they want to be police and legislate righteousness when it comes to politics or whatever. And personally, I learned over the years, we are not God. It's never fruitful to play God. And I believe my personal hypothesis on why that is because I think certain things are destined to happen, and they are part of a person's path or multiple people's path of learning, like the people who were killed on 9/11 and the Twin Towers. That might have been part of their destiny, and there might have been no way to avoid that. On the other hand, a lot of people didn't go to work that morning and escaped dying. They missed that bullet because that bullet didn't have their name on it and they weren't supposed to be there. So I also feel that trying to avoid, like if you have a vision or you do a remote viewing session and you think some major catastrophe is going to happen, then you might try to avoid that. You might try to notify the authorities, like Gene Dixon trying to notify JFK that he was going to be assassinated if he went to Dallas. She let everyone know, and his secretary knew, and he was told, and he still went to Dallas. So we can't play God. That's the main thing. We cannot play God. And I think sometimes it's just a lot easier to relax into the uncertainty of life. Just accept it, relax into it, and trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Your family is where they need to be. And you just kind of pray for everyone's protection and ask to put a big cushion of protection around everyone. And then you just step back and let God be God. And you do your job of just living life and learning your own lessons. And yes, you can use remote viewing for many wonderful things. And I hope we can use it to find 0 point energy and other things like that. But at the same time, right now, when it comes to many things, we can't play God and save everyone's lives and avoid calamity, because sometimes calamity is meant to happen. And our best writes, "Hi, Lori, hope you're well. My question is, even though remote viewing uses the subconscious, is it possible to view text, like read a word or sentence correctly? If so, what is the appropriate approach?" The answer is yes, it's possible. And I know that we usually, when we want to read text or see like street signs or the names of buildings or the names of organizations, we use a technique called extended remote viewing, or ERV. And you can insert ERV into the CRV process. And I was working a kidnapping case in which I was able to get the exact name of the group that was responsible for the kidnapping in a foreign country, in a foreign language, and it turned out to be accurate. But I was combining ERV with CRV, and there's a certain way to do that. So I hope that answered that question. Just curious, has CRV been used, or is it used in cold case crimes? And if so, what has the success rate been? Carla, that's a great question. I don't have the data on that. I don't know what the success rate's been, but I do know that in many places where remote viewers are friends with the policeman or the police department, they can get cold case crimes to work on, and also solved crimes that can be used to help students actually determine, how well they can do on a solved crime. And that becomes like a practice target where they can get solid feedback on the information that they get. Hi, Lisa, New York City. How do we find out if we have these abilities? Lisa, everyone has these abilities, and the abilities manifest with strengths in some areas and weaknesses in others. So what might be a strength for me might be a weakness for you, and what might be a strength for you could be a weakness for me. And the only way to do it is by doing practice sessions on provable targets and then keeping data, which is why we have a database. And then you can have a track record. And that's what will show you if you, not if you have the abilities, but in what areas you have the strongest abilities. Hugh says, when does the CRV consensus for president come out, and where can I find it? I don't know that there is a consensus out at this point. And there's no official, every election year, we put out a CRV consensus. I am not aware of that. So, and it's certainly not coming from my school, so I can't answer that one. Although we did do it for the last election. We did do it. And the way that I did it was I asked my top viewers if they wanted to view a target. And then they were blind tasked, meaning they were not told what they were viewing. I told them the target is a specific date and time. The target is a location at a specific date and time. Describe the location, including the most important person at the location at the specified date and time. And my top viewers all viewed, it was the White House on like March 4th of of 2020, I think. I can't remember, whenever I knew that the new president would be in. And we did this like a year before. So the Democratic candidates had not been yet determined. And I think everybody knew Trump was running. But anyway, everyone described to a T our vice president. And they described a woman with dark skin and brown straight hair that was about shoulder length, wearing a blue suit. And all the viewers described her very well. So, okay, so then Glenn asked, Lori, you mentioned in your last lesson in the basic RV class that we should wait a few months and get a lot of practice in before enrolling in intermediate. Well, basically what I was suggesting is that you really build a strong foundation from the basic course before jumping into intermediate. And for those of you who are parents, I compare it to the difference between having one child and then having a second child. That first child changes your life dramatically. And then you think, okay, I've got this parenting thing down. And suddenly you have a second child and the change is almost as dramatic as the first one. But then once you've had those first two, you can keep having kids like I did. And it's just, you just keep going with it. But when it comes to intermediate, I really like people to have a solid foundation of basic. Now, what determines how solid and whether you're ready for intermediate? That depends on each person and how much they practice. If you practice a lot, you're very involved in Club PRV or in Lyn's group that meets periodically, then you probably are ready for intermediate after just 2 to 3 months. If not, then you probably want to wait maybe 6 months before you take it if you're not practicing that often and you don't have a peer group to work with. That's my suggestion. Then Monica says, is there a way to use learned gifts in an ethical way with tarot card readings? Is there a way to use these learned gifts in an ethical way with tarot card readings? I don't know. You can include the information you get from a tarot card reading into a CRV structure to report it for reporting purposes. But I don't know that you could, in the midst of a tarot card reading, that you could use CRV. Jim and I, years and years ago, were asked by a friend of his who had a psychic bookstore if we would come in and be the readers of the month. And Jim would sit at the table and do a tarot card reading to the people, whoever the person was there. And he would take about 10 or 15 minutes to do that. And while he was doing that, I was doing a CRV session on that person. And then as soon as he was done with the tarot card reading, I would share what I got in the CRV session. So that's the only way we've ever related tarot and CRV. Janine asks, I do remember the endless debate on local sidereal time, which no doubt still goes on, but I wondered if there had been any tests of remote viewers attempting to remote view while in Earth orbit or out in space. I had a hazy idea one of the astronauts might have tried it, but maybe not. Yes, Janine, all of a sudden, let's see, what was his name? Edgar Mitchell did remote viewing experiments while out in space. And Edgar Mitchell, there's a website, I believe, that talks all about it. If you Google Edgar Mitchell and remote viewing, I bet you'll find it. Because I know that he did remote viewing experiments while I think it was the Apollo 11 or whichever Apollo mission he was on. He was with Neil Armstrong, Apollo 11, I believe. So check that out, and I bet you'll find it. Jay says, great to hear Audible is in the cards. Yes, Jay, it's coming. Do you have any advice for someone who has had a concussion? Jen, hi, Jen. I don't know, Jen, because different types of concussions can affect people differently. I have had a number of students who've had closed head injuries who had a hard time with their short-term memory and couldn't remember the structure. And for that reason, I created written templates for them to follow. And so that's the main thing I would suggest is if you've had a concussion and you want to really get into remote viewing, then you could do it. You could take the class and just utilize the templates to help you remember the structure. That's really helpful. Then we have, Siwa says, yes, it would be splendid. I don't remember now what that refers to, but thank you. Okay, Sita says, if I want to use CRV as a career, at what point does someone begin charging for the service? Which courses need to be completed and what success rate? Thanks. Great question. We have a program that we do not advertise. It's not on our website, excuse me, and we only open enrollment for it occasionally because we have a limited amount of capacity. But it's a 3-year certification program to help people get professionally certified as remote viewers. And our first group of graduates will be graduating this coming February. And then their names will be, we will have their whole bio and all their information about what they can do as professional remote viewers on a public page. For those who would like that, they will be on a public page on our website, so that if someone contacts us and wants, hey, I need help with this certain remote viewing project, they have a page to go where there are competent professional remote viewers that they can choose from. So I don't know. Oh, and you would definitely want to have taken all the courses and have get quite a bit of practice under your belt and operational remote viewing experience before you would ever want to do it as a career in charge. You definitely want a solid track record in the database. Karsten asked, hello, Lori. Hello, everyone from Germany. Lori, is it possible to use CRV or ARV for personal decision-making, inner guidance, and how far advanced does one have to be for it? I teach personal decision-making in the ARV course, and the ARV course has a lot of people who come in straight off the street who've never taken a course in remote viewing previously. There's no prerequisite for associative remote viewing, and it'll make you really happy to know that the video version of my associative remote viewing course should be out in just a few months. We're in the editing process. It's been filmed and it's getting edited as you and I speak. So that will really help because it has a huge portion on personal decision-making. Yes, Samantha asked if she could sign up again. She took the free course and then she got busy and didn't get to watch it. Samantha, just write to support@intuitivespecialist.com with an S at the end of specialist. Support@intuitivespecialist.com, and they can make sure that you get to watch it again. Lyron says, hi, Lori and Lynn. How do you know when it's time to continue from the basic course to intermediate? Is there any checklist? And where's Lynn? Lyron, you must have joined us a little bit late. Lynn is just at the getting his passport today. He had a passport appointment, so he's at the passport office. As far as when it's time to move from basic to intermediate, that really depends on how much practice you get. But build a firm foundation in basic first, and make sure you practice a lot and have a good track record before you move into intermediate. That's what I would suggest. So there's no stat answer to that other than how much are you practicing? How well do you really know the basic structure? Make sure you really have it all down before you move on. Siwa says, I found breathing helps me to go back to where I'm supposed to be. If I don't like where I'm at in CRV, I just go to where I need to be. After all, I'm not a tree, just move your mind. That's cute, Siwa, I like that. Let's see, then we have Vicky says, if we want help with something rather than doing CRV ourselves, how do you find out what you or your team can offer? Do you do personal, not important, like a missing child? So we are right now building a team through this professional certification program I mentioned, Vicky. We are building a team of certified viewers who will be featured on our website where you can go to for all that sort of thing. Meanwhile, I do have a team of excellent professional remote viewers who are coaches and work for my company. And several of them are offering services for what we call life path targets, which are personal targets for you. So you can just write to me about that and ask questions. I'd be happy to connect you with one of them. Lori@intuitivespecialist.com is my email. Charlie says, the Earth or the galaxy. Oh, okay. Let's see. Siwa says, I've taken the free masterclass. I recommend it. Attention new users, to get the most out of free class, be in a place where no one or anything can distract you and take notes. You will be shocked if you dedicate your time and attention. You'll be amazed. Thanks, Siwa. That's great. Anonymous attendee says, I have practical and philosophical questions. Philosophically, are events fated? Lynn saw 9/11 as a strange attractor event. Could anything have been done to avoid it, or was it fated? Also, is there a way to see a specific event in a month and direct myself to it? Okay, regarding 9/11, if you go to Lynn's website, and Trixie, if you're there and you're able to put this, pop this in, Trixie's in the Philippines and they've had a complete blackout. So she's actually working from a power station right now. But if you're able to, there's an analogy called a rock in the pond of time. And it really relates to 9/11 in that a lot of, I had dreams about 9/11 from the time I was 3 years old. I had continual dreams about it, these planes crashing into the towers. I saw it over and over. But the thing about it is there are rocks in the pond of time. So if you look across the pond of time and you see, you're a frog and you see a juicy looking bug and you want to eat that bug, you leap into the pond, and the wake that's created from leaping into the pond of time actually scares the bug away. But when you get to the rock is still there. So a rock in the future might be 9/11. It probably could not have been avoided. But the people who did not go to work that morning were the bugs that got away. Something in the wake of time prevented them from getting to work that day. And again, they dodged that bullet because that bullet didn't have their name on it. So I feel that the event itself was destined to be, for whatever learning purposes that it taught so many people, or for whatever reasons in the trajectory of this particular timeline, this particular universe, that was meant to be. But again, there were bugs that got away. And I don't know if you can see a specific event in the month and direct yourself to it. If you happen to have a vision about something that you thought was coming, you could do a full-on remote viewing session about it to get more information. Donna Eden wrote about how when her daughter's third eye opened, it interrupted her sleep, so she taught her to turn it off or close her eye before going to sleep by running her finger down the middle of her forehead. Interesting. Teresa asked, does hydration make a difference? I think hydration is super important to Teresa. If you're dehydrated, it just really affects so many things. So I believe it's very important to stay hydrated. Alan said, I remember when we did the spoon bending party, I didn't get a spoon twisted, but I did get a spoon bent a little tiny bit. It's more than I've ever been able to do. Would it be a better target to try to affect water, which is easier to move? It would be nice to have a success like that. It would be, Alan. Try it and see, do an experiment and let me know how it goes. Yeah, I think we're planning to have another spoon bending party in October. We usually have them in October. Arnaldo, what do you think of the use of certain substances as vitamins and herbs to improve our sensitive cognitive performance? Once you mentioned vitamin B, do you think it would help to take a few shots or explore certain herbs? I've done a lot of experimentation with that, Arnaldo. I haven't kept data though, but I do know that in the military, they found that a lot of the viewers were suffering from a vitamin B12 deficiency, in which case, if you have a vitamin B12 deficiency, you would definitely want to take supplementation. So it was recommended that if you remote view on a regular basis, that you do supplement B vitamins. As far as anything else, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. Then Magda asked, sometimes it's difficult to recognize if it's imagination or intuition. That's one of the things I'll be covering, Magda, in the How Do I Trust My Intuition class on September 26th. So be sure and sign up for that one. Ryan says, now that I know the world is not four-dimensional per se, what do I do about my kids? I'm an atheist, or I was, and I had a plan for raising my kids against religion. Now what? Ryan, like I said, God has no grandchildren. So rather than raising your kids against religion, which will probably, believe it or not, turn them toward religion, because children tend to get to a certain age and they go the opposite direction that their parents have gone in certain things. So for example, my parents were pretty much agnostic, and then I became a complete religious nut when I was 14, ended up joining a pretty crazy religious cult. So watch out about trying to direct your children in any certain direction. Just trust that the universe will guide your children as far as when it comes to spirituality, will guide them, and just be the best example you can be of spiritual being. And if you continue in the remote viewing path, things will open up to you and you will be shown truth about reality and about everything that you've always had questions about. So, and you can share those with your children or not as you choose. But the main thing is that just to know that just because you plan to teach your children against religion, it probably won't work. Believe me, I'm a mom of 9. Let's see then. Epic advice, we can't play God. All righty, and then can I use CRV to see the past lives of a person? Again, Lyn, you can, but you better have a really good track record and with solid, provable targets before you try doing that, because otherwise you could just be making up a big story and fooling yourself. So you need to know your own strengths and weaknesses. Hi, Holly. Johnson says, you went over technique on your recent interview on New Thinking Aloud on how to choose the right gift. Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about, John. On New Thinking Aloud, actually what I could do is refer everyone to go on YouTube and look up Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove, New Thinking Aloud, and you will see, and if you put my name there, if you put Jeffrey Mishlove, Lori Williams, you'll pull up all the interviews I've done on Jeff's show. And the latest one, I actually explain how to choose a gift for someone using your sensory mechanisms. It's a little too long to explain here. Daniela, we're actually over time too. Daniela says, hello from Honolulu, first time here, glad to be here. Is there a way if you're in the medical field to remote view a patient's illness and see what best steps for them to heal? Definitely, Daniela. There definitely is. It's something I teach in the CRV medical applications course. Now, that course is coming up in October, but it has prerequisites. You have to have taken basic and intermediate at the very least, preferably advanced before going into the CRV medical applications course, which, as I mentioned, I'm teaching in October. I don't remember the dates exactly, what date that is. Just a second, I can look it up. Just in case. I think it might be the October. Let's see. It is October. Yes. Okay. October 18th, 19th, and 20th is the medical applications course. October 18th, 19th, and 20th is when I'm teaching that course. Jennifer Kingston, new here, attended Masterclass and feel very strongly about pursuing, just broke for now, but interested in striving towards some sort of career occupation. What are some other examples besides crime cases? Oh gosh, there's archaeology, there's personal life paths, doing life paths for other people and helping them with decision making and things. There's just more than we have one student who's a real estate person and she uses it all the time to find the perfect house for her customers. There's just more than I can mention, but there actually is a YouTube video that if you go to our YouTube channel, which is Intuitive Specialist, there's a YouTube video where I'm talking about all the different ways you can use CRV. So look for that one. Okay, Derek, just send me an email, lori@intuitivespecialist.com. That's the best way to reach me. Can this help you find out if a possible job would be a good fit? Definitely, Sharon. If you go to that Jeffrey Mishlove thing about how to choose a gift, you can use the same thing on for jobs, like multiple jobs choices. You can also use CRV to find out, and there's so many techniques. I can't teach a class now, but I would just suggest that you get into CRV and learn how to do it, because we definitely teach that. That's part of the classes. Okay, how can CRV be used to bring into being the things we need? That is to ask for things from the goodness and providence of the universe and receive them. I don't know if CRV is a tool to bring things in that you need. I think that CRV lends itself to personal development. And in personal development, you develop an attitude of abundance that opens you up to receiving all the abundance the universe has to offer. And that's what I've personally found in my life. Okay, let me talk about this one. The next one, I know we're over time. I'm going to just answer a couple more and then we'll move on. Holly says, I saw a video where a man was saying the government put fluoride in our water to calcify our pineal gland in order to hinder the general public from accessing their intuition, their higher self. He also said they discovered vibrations that heal the pineal gland with the military using. Do you know if there's any validity? Holly, I'm just going to tell you that I have been highly psychic my entire life. I have a really, really solid track record with psychic ability and CRV results. And I used toothpaste with fluoride and drank water with fluoride my entire childhood and a big part of my adult life. And it hasn't seemed to hurt me at all. And I think sometimes people put these things out and they are generating fear And I think that reality is a lot more malleable than we might realize. And so what is one person's truth may not be someone else's truth. So for maybe the government did that. I don't know. But does it mean that it has to be an immutable fact and suddenly everybody can't be psychic and can't remote view because now their pineal glands are calcified? Personally, I think that's a lot of hogwash. I'll just tell you my own personal opinion. But that's just my opinion. And I also believe that the universe is malleable. So even if that were a truth, we could just simply change it. So that's my opinion. And I won't go into the details of how do you change something like that, but I'm just saying, I don't think it has to be an immutable truth. Okay, so guys, I think we have to stop here because I have meetings back to back all day today, so I have to move on. But I hope that this has been helpful for you, even though Lyn wasn't able to attend with us. Janine, guys, for those of you who don't know, that she is Jeffrey Mishlov's wife, wonderful and beautiful white lady. And Janine, I don't know if you noticed, but these are all those books you recommended to me. I found them used and I bought them and they're all right there. So I have them there. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for joining us. I love you very much. And I'm so glad. I love being able to do these. Thank you guys so much. And if you wrote me something and I did not, if I didn't get to answer it, then please be sure and you can send me a letter. You can also send a letter to support@Intuitive Specialists. Let me just look over. These are really great questions. Awesome. This is really good, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. I'm just looking through all the thank yous. This is wonderful. Thanks, guys, so much. And so I love you all so much. Just be sure and check, if you haven't checked it out yet, intuitivespecialist.com has the free masterclass on it that you can take. Talk to you soon.